Hello listeners, this video is on the Adventures of Augie March written by Saul Bellow. Saul Bellow is otherwise called as Solomon Bellow. He's born in the year 1915 and died in the year 2005. He was a Canadian-American writer. Bellow has received Pulitzer Prize, Nobel Prize for Literature and the National Medal of Arts for his literary works. He has received National Book Award for Fiction for 3 times. Also, he received the National Book Foundation's Life Medal for Distinguished Contribution to American Letters in 1990. His notable works include The Adventures of Augie March, Henderson the Rain King, Herzog, Mr. Samler's Planet, Seize the Day, Humboldt's Gift, and Ravelstein. Let us see a small outline of the novel The Adventures of Augie March. This is a picaresque novel. Picaresque meaning it's a genre of prose fiction. Usually the heroes come under roguish, but they are portrayed as an appealing hero, usually of low social class, who lives in the corrupted society. This novel was published in the year 1953 by Viking Press. The novel features about the character Augie March. The protagonist Augie March grows up during the Great Depression, that was between 1929 to 39. Great Depression was a period of economic shock that impacted many countries across the world, and it was the period of economic depression that became evident after a fall of stock market in the United States. This novel, The Adventures of Augie March, is a best example for Bildungsroman. Bildungsroman focuses on the psychological and the moral growth of the protagonist of the novel, right from the childhood to adulthood, and the change in the character is important. The novel Adventures of Augie March won the US National Book Award for Fiction in the year 1954. Both Time magazine and the Modern Library Board named this book as one of the 100 best novels in the English language. The novel totally has 26 chapters. This video lecture will have the entire summary of the novel. Let us see the important characters of this novel. First is Augie. Augie is a Chicago-born Jewish American boy. He grows up poor during the Great Depression. He travels through Mexico and Europe, and he experiments various jobs. He was into many love affairs and was also into many personalities, meaning he portrayed himself to be having many characteristics. By the end of the novel, Augie is married and he has gone to war and settled in Paris. His wife works for an international film company. Next is Mama. Mama is Augie's mother, named Rebecca. She raises 3 of her sons. Georgia is the younger brother of Augie. Simon is the older brother of Augie. Lausch is the grandma of Augie. Let us see the other characters when we deal the summary. Now let us see the summary of the novel. During the early 20th century, Augie March, he lives in Chicago with his Jewish family. He belongs to a poor Polish Catholic neighborhood. His father abandoned his wife and 3 children, and so Augie's mother supports the family as a seamstress. Seamstress is someone who sews clothes. Simon is the older brother of Augie. He is smart and handsome. Augie's younger brother George is mentally handicapped. The thoughts and ideologies of Augie's mother completely differs from the opinions of Grandma Losh. Losh is not the real grandmother of Augie. She does not belong to the family. She is an elderly Russian woman who gets along with this family and lives with them. Grandmother Losh, she is a shrewd woman. She mentors Augie in the art of lying in order to fleece business and generally serve his own interest. She also expects the boys, that is the kids of Augie's mother, to dress properly and perform well at their school. When Augie turns 12, their grandmother, she finds a summertime employment for Augie and Simon. She searched jobs at newsstands, Woolworths, and fancy hotels, but the activities of Augie disappoints his grandmother. Augie gets along with his friend named Jimmy Klin. They together experiment with petty crime and they get caught. Their family disperses and moves into different direction as the boys grow older. Despite Augie and Augie's mother's objection, their grandmother sends Georgia to an institution. Remember, Georgia is a physically challenged child. At present, Augie is at his high school. He is an unimpressive student and he takes a job assisting a wealthy and a disabled real estate tycoon, William Einhorn. Although Einhorn is physically limited, he runs several businesses and also into extramarital affairs. Augie admires Egon's energy and he is intrigued by Egon's brother named Dingbat. He manages to work with heavyweight boxers. To the surprise, the stock market crashes and Ehorn's fortune vanishes at one night. Meanwhile, Augie's brother Simon, he moves grandma to a nursing home because she was developing dementia and due to it the family loses all their savings. While Simon enrolls in college studies, Augie, he again enters into criminal activity. He commits robbery and frequently becomes guilty of it. However, once during a conversation with Einhorn, Augie realizes his illegal activities. He believes that his activities are the nature of opposition and not a criminal immorality. Augie then moves to Easton. Easton is a suburb of Chicago. He takes up a new job at a sporting goods shop which is owned by Mr. Renling and Mrs. Renling. The family belongs to European aristocratic descent. Mrs. Renling takes Augie as her protégé. Protégé is a person who is guided and supported by an older or more experienced or influential person. Mrs. Renling changes Augie's appearance. She presents him stylish wardrobe, advises him to take riding lessons, and overall she grooms him for higher society. On a short holiday with Mrs. Renling, Augie happens to meet the heiress Thea Fenchel. Fenchel meeting Augie, she quickly falls in love with him. When the Renlings move too far, they propose to adopt Augie and express their wish of rending him their money. Augie is unwilling to submit to the expectations of others. He refuses all the offer and he moves back to Chicago. Now, Augie's mother becomes blind and she has no income. Augie is desperate to make money. He participates in all ill-fated operations. He smuggles immigrants at the south of the Canadian border. At one instance, when the police intervene, he is detained by the authorities. Augie is then forced to get back to his way to Chicago. When Augie returns home, the situation has worsened because his grandmother is dead from pneumonia. Simon, his brother, had sold their mother's home out of gambling. Augie and his brother sends their mother to a blind home and in order to fund their mother's stay, Augie first works for a dog grooming service and then he joins a book selling house where he sells stolen textbooks. His brother Simon, for the sake of money, he marries Cole Harris named Charlotte Magnus. He tries to take the opportunity to be a coal magnate himself. Augie then becomes a handyman For a property near the University of Chicago, handyman is a person who is clever enough of repairing things. As he works near the University of Chicago, he mingles with high-class students. Meanwhile, he develops a close friendship with his neighbor, Mimi Villas. Villas has an on and off relationship with a communist professor. Simultaneously, Simon encourages a romance between Augie and Charlotte's cousin named Lucy. When Augie helps Villas to obtain an abortion, knowing this, Charlotte Magnus' family blacklists him. Later, Augie takes a job as a union organizer. Again, Thea Fenchel reappears. She is married, but she is attracted towards Augie again. Augie and Thea they get along and they together go to Mexico where Thea gets a divorce. There she learns and get trained for a Zani scheme, that is to train an eagle to attack Iguanas. Iguanas is a reptile. It is like a herbivorous lizard. Caligula the eagle does not cooperate to Thea's training. Thea gets anger. Thea then tries to train another bird, but nothing worked out. The tension between them increased and their relationship ends. Thea then begins a relationship with an old man. After 2 years in Mexico, Augie returns to Chicago. Once again, he did hard jobs and also carried by his former lovers. Meanwhile, his brother Simon is now a prosperous businessman. He now has a mistress. When the World War II begins, Augie enrolls in the Merchant Marine. During his first holiday in New York City, he happened to meet Stella. Stella is an American actress whom he met in Mexico. The relationship between them rapidly progresses, and in the following week, they decide to marry. Augie then takes a ship journey on a naval operation. During the voyage, the boat sinks. Along with him, there was a scientist named Patsy Shaw. They both are alone. They are the two survivors. They survive in a lifeboat. Bostow, he efforts to recruit Augie to conduct biological experiments in Canary Islands. There, Augie successfully signals a British ship to rescue them. After the marriage between Augie and Stella, they live in Paris. Augie then works for a lawyer named Mintauchian. The work is to traffic goods on the black market. When the novel ends, the life of Augie changed of being moving from one place to another. At present, he is at the state of understanding his own fate. That is, he understood his own personal identity. Let us see the themes carried in this novel. First is personal identity. At first, Augie's life is described as he was born in Chicago. His fate carried him and he was matured enough to find out the job that is suitable for him. Also, the parentless life of a child being penniless and growing up in pre and post depression in Chicago is depicted in this novel through Augie March. As the novel centers on the quest for identity, it is compared with other novels such as The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Moby Dick, and The Tartar in the Rye. Let us see the cultural influences through this novel. The Australian band named Augie March, which is an Australian pop and indie rock band formed in 1996. This band got its name from the title of this book. The Irish singer and the songwriter Fionn Regan, he refers this book in his song Put a Penny in the Slot. The surname of Augie March is taken by the character Sid March in the film Antiviral, directed by a Canadian director named Brandon Cronenberg. Hope this video helps. If you have query, please write it down on the comment. Thank you for listening. Do not fail to subscribe this channel.